The morning rain painted Seoul's streets in silver reflections as Min Ji-woo hurried through the crowded sidewalks of Gangnam District. Her worn sneakers splashed through puddles as she clutched her leather portfolio, a graduation gift from her grandmother that had seen better days. At 26, Ji-woo carried herself with the quiet determination of someone who had learned early that dreams required more than wishful thinking. She paused before the towering glass facade of Stellar Entertainment, one of Korea's most prestigious talent agencies. The building stretched 30 floors into the cloudy sky, its surface reflecting the bustling city like a mirror of ambition. Taking a deep breath, Ji-woo adjusted her simple black blazer and stepped through the revolving doors. "You must be the new marketing coordinator," said the receptionist, barely glancing up from her computer. 23rd floor, ask for Director Park." The elevator ride felt eternal. Ji-woo had worked 3 part-time jobs while completing her marketing degree, saving everyone to afford her small studio apartment in Hongdae. This position at Stellar Entertainment wasn't just a job. It was her chance to prove that talent and hard work could overcome the advantages of wealth and connections that seemed to define success in Seoul. Meanwhile, 3 floors above in his corner office, Lee Tae-min stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the rain cascade down the glass. At 29, he possessed the kind of effortless elegance that graced magazine covers. But his dark eyes held a weariness that expensive suits couldn't hide. As the heir to Stellar Entertainment, Tae-min had inherited more than a company. He'd inherited the weight of expectations, the burden of a legacy built by his grandfather's blood, sweat, and tears. "Sir, the board meeting is in 10 minutes, his secretary announced through the intercom. Tae-min sighed, straightening his tie. Another meeting about quarterly profits, expansion plans, and strategic partnerships. Another day of being addressed, as Chairman Lee, by people who saw dollar signs when they looked at him. He longed for something real, something genuine in his world of calculated smiles and ulterior motives. On the 23rd floor, Ji-woo was learning that her new workplace was a battlefield disguised as an office. Director Park, a sharp-featured woman in her 40s, barely acknowledged her presence as she outlined Ji-woo's responsibilities. "You'll be handling the social media campaigns for our B-list talents," Director Park said dismissively. "Don't expect to work with our top-tier celebrities. That requires experience you don't have." Ji-woo nodded politely, though she felt the subtle sting of condescension. She'd researched every major campaign Stellar Entertainment had run in the past 5 years. She had ideas, innovations that could revolutionize their approach to fan engagement. But she understood that in corporate Korea, respect was earned slowly and rank was everything. Her cubicle was small, wedged between a printer and a filing cabinet. But Ji-woo arranged her few personal items with care. A small potted succulent, a photo of her grandmother, and a notebook filled with marketing strategies she'd developed during late-night study sessions. It was during her lunch break, 3 days into her new job, that fate intervened in the most ordinary way possible. The company cafeteria buzzed with conversations in Korean and English. Employees clustered around tables according to their department. Hierarchies. Ji-woo sat alone, eating her homemade kimbap while reviewing campaign analytics on her laptop. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice the person approaching her table until a shadow fell across her screen. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Ji-woo looked up to see a man about her age, wearing a simple grey hoodie and jeans that had seen better days. His hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd just woken up, and he carried a plastic tray with the cafeteria's cheapest lunch option, instant ramen, and a small side of kimchi. "Oh no, please sit," Ji-woo said, quickly closing her laptop to make room. "Thank you. I'm Kim Min-ho," he said with a warm smile that reached his eyes. "I don't think we've met. Min Ji-woo. I'm new to the marketing department." Min-ho, as Tae-min had introduced himself, using his middle name and a common surname, had been eating lunch in the company cafeteria, disguised as a regular employee for 2 weeks now. It started as curiosity about how his company really functioned, from the ground level, but it had become something more precious, a pocket of authenticity in his carefully constructed world. "Marketing, that's exciting," Min-ho said, opening his ramen package. Are you working on anything interesting? Ji-woo hesitated. In her previous internships, she'd learned that sharing ideas too freely could lead to them being stolen by colleagues eager to climb the corporate ladder. But something about Min-ho's genuine interest made her feel safe. I'm developing a social media strategy for emerging artists, she said carefully. The current approach feels too corporate, too distant from what fans actually want. What do fans want? Min-ho asked, and Ji-woo was surprised by how intently he listened to her answer. Connection, authenticity. They want to feel like they know the real person behind the celebrity image. Instead of polished promotional content, we should show behind-the-scenes moments, struggles, growth. Make the artists relatable rather than untouchable. Min-ho leaned forward, his chopsticks forgotten in his ramen. That's brilliant. Have you presented this idea to your team? Ji-woo's laugh held a hint of bitterness. I'm the new girl handling B-list talent. My opinions aren't exactly valued yet. That's their loss, Min-ho said firmly. Innovation often comes from fresh perspectives, not entrenched hierarchies. Over the following weeks, their lunch meetings became a cherished routine. Min-ho was unlike anyone Ji-woo had met in Seoul's competitive business environment. He listened without judgment, asked thoughtful questions, and never seemed concerned with status or advancement. He claimed to work in the general administration department, whatever that meant, and always paid for his own modest meals with exact change, counting coins carefully like someone watching every one. Ji-woo found herself looking forward to these conversations more than she cared to admit. Min-ho had an unusual perspective on the entertainment industry, speaking about talent management and corporate strategy with surprising insight for someone who claimed to handle administrative tasks. You know a lot about business for someone in general administration, Ji-woo teased one afternoon. Min-ho's smile faltered for just a moment. I read a lot. Business magazines, industry reports. Knowledge is power, right? Meanwhile, Tae-min was experiencing something he'd forgotten was possible: anticipation. For the first time in years, he looked forward to coming to work, not for board meetings or profit reports, but for lunch with Ji-woo. Her passion for her work was infectious, her ideas brilliant, and her complete lack of awareness about his true identity was refreshingly honest. But maintaining his charade was becoming increasingly complicated. Sir, you missed the budget review meeting, his secretary reminded him one afternoon as he returned from another extended lunch break. Reschedule it, Tae-min said, still thinking about Ji-woo's latest campaign concept. Sir, with respect, this is the third meeting you've rescheduled this week. The board members are starting to ask questions. Tae-min knew he was playing a dangerous game. His grandfather, the company founder, had always preached that business, and personal feelings were incompatible. The moment you let emotions cloud your judgment, the old man had said, you lose everything. But Ji-woo made him feel like himself again. Not the chairman, not the heir, just Tae-min. When she laughed at his jokes, he forgot about quarterly earnings. When she shared her dreams of revolutionizing marketing in the entertainment industry, he wanted to hand her the resources to make it happen. The complication intensified when Ji-woo began facing serious challenges at work. Director Park had assigned her an impossible project: increase social media engagement for a struggling idol group by 200% within a month, using a budget that wouldn't cover a single professional photo shoot. It's a test, Min-ho observed during one of their lunches, watching Ji-woo spread campaign mock-ups across the cafeteria table. They're setting you up to fail. I know, Ji-woo said quietly, but I can't give up. This job means everything. To me. Min-ho studied her tired face, the dark circles under her eyes from staying up late, developing creative solutions on a shoestring budget. He could solve her problems with a single phone call, could ensure her ideas received the attention and resources they deserved. But doing so would shatter the carefully constructed wall between his two identities. What if you could present your ideas directly to senior management? He asked carefully. Ji-woo laughed humorlessly. People like me don't get meetings with senior management. We're invisible until we make mistakes. That evening, Tae-min paced his penthouse apartment, torn between his growing feelings for Ji-woo and the deception that made their relationship possible. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul's lights twinkled like stars, but he barely noticed the view that had once provided solace. His phone buzzed with a text from his grandfather. "The board is concerned about your recent distraction. Don't forget what happened to your father when he prioritized personal relationships over business responsibilities." The reminder was like ice, water. Taemin's father had been groomed to inherit the company, but lost everything when he chose love over duty, marrying a woman his grandfather deemed unsuitable. He'd been cut off from the family business and struggled to support his wife and young son until his early death from stress-related illness. But Ji-woo wasn't some gold digger seeking to exploit family wealth. She didn't even know who he really was. The next day brought crisis. Director Park called Ji-woo into her office with a satisfied smile that promised nothing good. "Your campaign results are disappointing," Director Park said, though the numbers actually showed modest improvement given the limited resources. "I'm afraid we'll need to reconsider your position here." Ji-woo felt the familiar sting of rejection, the same feeling she'd experienced countless times growing up poor in a society that often equated worth with wealth. "I understand the results aren't where we hoped, but if I could have more time." "Time is a luxury we can't afford," Director Park interrupted. "However, I'm willing to give you one final chance. There's a special project that needs immediate attention." She slid a file across the desk. "Our biggest client is considering switching to a rival agency. Your job is to develop a presentation that will convince them to stay. You have 48 hours. Ji-woo opened the file and felt her heart sink. The client was SJ Group, one of Korea's largest conglomerates, with marketing budgets larger than most companies' entire annual revenues. The stakes couldn't be higher, and she was being set up as the sacrificial lamb if things went wrong. That afternoon, she found Min-ho waiting at their usual table, but she barely touched her food as she explained the situation. 48 hours to save a multi-million-dollar client relationship, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. They might as well have asked me to perform miracles. Min-ho listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "What's your strategy?" "I don't have one yet. SJ Group has worked with Stellar Entertainment for 5 years. Their current dissatisfaction must stem from feeling undervalued or seeing better opportunities elsewhere." Ji-woo rubbed her temples. "I need to understand what they really want, not just what they're willing to pay for." "What if you could get insider information about their concerns?" Min-ho asked quietly. Ji-woo looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" I might know someone who has connections to SJ Group, someone who could provide insights into their decision-making process." "Min-ho, I can't accept help that might compromise your position. You've been too kind to me already." The earnestness in her voice, her concern for his well-being even while facing professional disaster, made Taemin's decision for him. "Ji-woo, there's something I need to tell you." But before he could continue, Director Park appeared at their table like a vulture sensing weakness. "Ms. Min, I hope you're not wasting time socializing when you have such important work to complete," she said with false sweetness. "And who might this be?" Min-ho looked up with the same mild expression he'd worn for weeks. "Kim Min-ho, General Administration." Director Park's dismissive glance confirmed that she considered him beneath her notice. "Well, Mr. Kim, I'm sure you understand that Ms. Min has urgent responsibilities that require her complete focus." After Director Park left, the moment for confession had passed. Min-ho watched Ji-woo gather her materials with renewed determination, and his heart ached with the knowledge that he could solve her problems, but couldn't find the courage to reveal the truth. That night, Ji-woo worked until dawn, developing a presentation that leveraged every marketing principle she'd learned and several she invented on the spot. Her strategy was bold. Instead of focusing on what Stellar Entertainment could offer SJ Group, She analysed what SJ Group truly needed to connect with younger demographics and proposed a revolutionary partnership model. Meanwhile, Tae-min lay, awake in his penthouse, staring at the ceiling. At 3 a.m., he made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Ji-woo arrived at the office to find an email in her inbox from an anonymous sender. It contained detailed market research about SJ Group's target demographics, internal surveys showing their marketing concerns, and strategic insights that would have cost thousands of dollars to obtain through conventional means. The information was exactly what she needed to perfect her presentation, but it raised troubling questions. Who would have access to such confidential data, and why would they help her? She glanced around the office, wondering if one of her colleagues had taken pity on her situation, but everyone seemed absorbed in their own work. The marketing department buzzed with the usual mixture of ambition and anxiety, no one paying attention to the new girl who might lose her job by evening. At lunch, Min-ho seemed unusually quiet. "Everything okay?" Ji-woo asked. "Just thinking about your presentation today. Are you ready?" "As ready as I can be, thanks to some mysterious help." She studied his face. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" Min-ho's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "I told you, I read a lot of business publications. The presentation was scheduled for 3 p.m. in Stellar Entertainment's main conference room, a space designed to intimidate with its marble table, leather chairs, and wall-mounted screens. Ji-woo had never set foot in this room before, and she felt like an imposter among the senior executives who filed in wearing suits that cost more than her monthly salary. Director Park introduced her with barely concealed disdain. "This is Min Ji-woo from our marketing team. She'll be presenting our retention strategy for the SJ Group account." Ji-woo stood, her hands steady despite her racing heart. She'd faced poverty, discrimination, and countless rejections. This was just one more mountain to climb. "Thank you for this opportunity," she began, her voice clear and confident. "I want to start by acknowledging that SJ Group isn't just our client. They're our partner in shaping Korea's cultural landscape." For the next 30 minutes, Ji-woo delivered the presentation of her life. She spoke about authentic brand storytelling, demographic evolution, and the future of entertainment marketing with passion and precision. Her slides were simple but effective, her arguments compelling, her vision transformative. The room was silent when she finished. Director Park's face had gone pale, and several senior executives were taking notes furiously. "Questions?" Ji-woo asked. An older man at the head of the table leaned forward. "Ms. Min, this analysis of generational marketing preferences, how did you obtain such detailed demographic data?" Ji-woo's heart skipped. She couldn't reveal her mysterious source without potentially implicating someone in corporate espionage. "I synthesized information from multiple public sources and industry reports, sir." "Impressive work," another executive said. "Your partnership model proposal is particularly innovative." After what felt like hours of questions, Ji-woo was dismissed while the executives deliberated. She waited in the hallway, her confidence slowly eroding as minutes ticked by. Through the conference room's glass walls, she could see animated discussion, but couldn't hear the words that would determine her future. Finally, Director Park emerged with an expression Ji-woo couldn't read. "Well?" Ji-woo asked. "SJ Group has agreed to extend their contract for another 3 years, Director Park said stiffly. They were impressed with the presentation. Relief flooded through Ji-woo like warm water. She had done it. She had saved her job and proven her worth in the most dramatic way possible. "However," Director Park continued, "there will be some changes to your role." Ji-woo's relief crystallized into apprehension. "What kind of changes?" "You'll be promoted to Senior Marketing Strategist, effective immediately. You'll have your own office and a team of junior coordinators. The SJ Group account will be your primary responsibility." The words felt surreal. 3 days ago, she'd been facing termination. Now she was being handed one of the company's most important accounts. Thank you, Ji-woo managed. Don't thank me, Director Park said coldly. This decision came from above my authority level. Apparently, someone was very impressed with your work. That evening, Ji-woo celebrated at their usual cafeteria table, though Min-ho seemed distracted. I can't believe it, she said, still processing the day's events. 6 months ago, I was working 3 part-time jobs just to pay rent. Now I have my own office. You deserve this, Min-ho said quietly. Your talent was always evident. I keep wondering who helped me, though. That market research didn't come from public sources, no matter what I told the executives. Someone with serious access to confidential information decided to help me succeed. Min-ho stared at his untouched ramen. Does it matter? You earned this promotion through your own brilliance. It matters because I don't like owing favors to people I can't identify. In my experience, unexpected help usually comes with unexpected prices. Her words hit Tae-min like physical blows. She was right to be suspicious. His help, no matter how well-intentioned, had compromised her sense of agency and independence. The next few weeks transformed Ji-woo's life in ways she was still learning to navigate. Her new office had windows overlooking Seoul's skyline, and her team of junior coordinators treated her with the respect she'd always craved. The SJ Group account proved challenging but rewarding, allowing her to implement the innovative strategies she'd dreamed about during her struggling years. But success came with complications she hadn't anticipated. Her new status meant invitations to company events she'd previously only heard about secondhand. The annual Stellar Entertainment Gala was approaching, and as senior marketing strategist, her attendance was not just expected, but required. You'll need an appropriate dress, her assistant informed her. The gala is black tie, and all the major industry executives will be there. Ji-woo stared at the invitation card, printed on cream-colored cardstock that probably cost more than her daily lunch budget. The dress code alone represented a financial challenge she wasn't sure how to meet. During lunch, she confided her anxiety to Min-ho. I've never been to anything like this, she admitted. I don't know the social protocols, and I certainly don't have the wardrobe for mingling with Korea's entertainment elite. You'll be fine, Min-ho assured her. Just be yourself. Your intelligence and authenticity are more valuable than any designer dress. Easy for you to say. You don't have to worry about making the right impression on people who could make or break your career with a single conversation. Min-ho's expression grew pained. Ji-woo, about the gala. What about it? I need to tell you something important. Something I should have said weeks ago. But before he could continue, Ji-woo's assistant appeared at their table, breathless, with excitement. Ms. Min, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Director Park needs to see you immediately. Something about the gala seating arrangements. Ji-woo gathered her things reluctantly. Can we continue this conversation tomorrow? Min-ho nodded, but his eyes held a sadness that puzzled her. Tomorrow, I promise. The gala was held at Seoul's most prestigious hotel, its ballroom transformed into a wonderland of crystal chandeliers and silk draperies. Ji-woo had managed to find an elegant black dress that didn't completely devastate her savings, and she felt reasonably confident. As she entered the reception area, the room buzzed with conversations in Korean, English, and Japanese as Korea's entertainment industry gathered to celebrate the year's achievements. Ji-woo recognized faces from magazine covers and business news programs, people whose decisions shaped popular culture across Asia. She was studying the seating chart, looking for her assigned table, when a familiar voice made her freeze. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of Stellar Entertainment, Lee Tae-min. Ji-woo turned toward the stage, and her world tilted on its axis. The man approaching the podium, wearing an impeccably tailored tuxedo and commanding the room's complete attention, was unmistakably Min-ho. No, not Min-ho. Lee Tae-min, Chairman Lee Tae-min, the man she'd shared lunches with for months, the man she'd confided her struggles to, who had listened to her dreams and fears with such genuine interest. The man she'd begun to fall in love with was the owner of the company she worked for. Everything made sense now. His unusual insights into business strategy, his knowledge of industry trends, his ability to provide her with confidential market research. He wasn't Kim Min-ho from General Administration. He was Lee Tae-min, heir to one of Korea's most powerful entertainment empires. The betrayal cut deeper than professional embarrassment. She had trusted him with her vulnerability, shared her insecurities about being poor in a world that valued wealth above merit, all while he was secretly the embodiment of everything she felt excluded from. As Tae-min spoke about the company's achievements and future vision, his eyes searched the crowd until they found hers. The moment their gazes met, she saw recognition, guilt, and something that might have been desperate apology. Ji-woo turned and walked out of the ballroom, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind her, she could hear Tae-min's speech continuing, but the words felt like noise from another universe. She found herself in the hotel's garden, where Seoul's city lights twinkled through carefully manicured trees. The cool night air helped clear her head, but it couldn't wash away the feeling of betrayal. Ji-woo. She turned to find Tae-min approaching, having somehow escaped from his own gala. He'd loosened his bow tie, and his usually perfect hair was disheveled. "Please let me explain," he said. "Explain what? How you've been lying to me for months. How you let me pour my heart out about struggling to make ends meet while you're worth more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes? It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Ji-woo's voice cracked with emotion. "Was it amusing to watch the poor girls stress about cafeteria prices while you could buy the entire building?" Tae-min flinched as if she'd struck him. "You think I was making fun of you? I think you were conducting some kind of social experiment. The rich heir playing at being normal to see how the other half lives. That's not true." Tae-min stepped closer, his eyes intense. "Everything between us has been real. My feelings, my interest in your work, my respect for your talent. None of that was pretense." "But the foundation was pretense," Ji-woo said quietly. "I told you things I've never told anyone because I thought you understood my struggles. I thought you were like me. I am like you, in the ways that matter." Ji-woo laughed bitterly. "You're the chairman of a multi-million-dollar company. I was eating instant ramen for dinner because it was all I could afford. We are nothing alike." "You're right about our circumstances," Tae-min said desperately. "But you're wrong about everything else. Do you know why I started eating in the company cafeteria disguised as a regular employee?" Ji-woo remained silent, her arms crossed defensively. "Because I was lonely," he continued. "I was surrounded by people who saw me as a paycheck, a connection, a stepping stone to their own success. No one spoke to me honestly. No one shared real thoughts or feelings. Then I met you, and for the first time in years, someone treated me like a person instead of a position. So you decided to base our entire relationship on a lie. I decided to protect the one genuine connection I'd found. I was going to tell you the truth dozens of times, but I was terrified of losing the only authentic relationship in my life." Ji-woo felt tears threatening and fought them back. "The market research that helped me save the SJ Group account, that came from you, didn't it?" Tae-min nodded reluctantly. "So even my professional success is tainted by your deception. How am I supposed to know what I earned versus what you handed to me?" "You earned everything," Tae-min said fiercely. "I gave you information, but you transformed it into a presentation that impressed executives who've seen thousands of pitches. Your ideas, your passion, your strategic thinking, that's all you. But I'll never know for sure, will I? There will always be the suspicion that my success came from knowing the right person rather than being the right person for the job." The truth of her words settled between them like a wall. Tae-min realized that his deception hadn't just betrayed Ji-woo's trust, it had undermined her confidence in her own abilities. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," Ji-woo replied, and the sadness in her voice was worse than anger would have been. "But intent doesn't erase impact." She turned to leave, then paused. I'll submit my resignation. Tomorrow morning. Ji-woo, please. I can't work for you, Taemin. I can't separate my personal feelings from professional obligations, and I can't trust that my career advancement will be based on merit rather than your feelings for me. Your work speaks for itself. The SJ Group extension, the campaign strategies, the team leadership. You've proven your value independently. To everyone except myself, Ji-woo said softly and walked away. Taemin stood alone in the garden, surrounded by the laughter and music from the gala he was supposed to be hosting. For the first time in his life, all his wealth and power felt meaningless. The next morning, Ji-woo's resignation letter sat on Taemin's desk like an accusation. It was professionally written, citing personal reasons and offering 2 weeks' notice to ensure smooth transition of her responsibilities. But Taemin knew he couldn't accept it, not just because losing Ji-woo would devastate him personally, but because Stellar Entertainment would be losing one of the most innovative marketing minds he'd encountered. He called an emergency meeting with the senior executive team. "I'm implementing a new policy," he announced to the surprised faces around the conference table. "All promotional decisions and salary adjustments will now go through a blind review process. Employee names and personal information will be redacted, with evaluations based solely on performance metrics and project outcomes." Director Park looked confused. "Sir, that seems unnecessarily complicated." "It's necessarily fair," Taemin replied. "We want our employees to succeed based on merit, not connections or personal relationships." He also announced that he would be stepping back from day-to-day operations to focus on strategic planning, meaning he would have minimal contact with departmental employees. These changes wouldn't immediately solve his relationship with Ji-woo, but they might convince her that her professional success wouldn't be tainted by their personal history. Ji-woo spent her final weeks at Stellar Entertainment in a state of emotional numbness. She completed her projects with characteristic thoroughness, trained her replacement, and tried to ignore the concerned glances from her team. Members who couldn't understand why their successful senior strategist was leaving. Min-ho, she still thought of him as Min-ho, didn't approach her during this period. She occasionally glimpsed him in the hallways, but he maintained respectful distance, and she was grateful for the space to process her feelings. On her last day, Ji-woo was packing her personal items when her assistant knocked on her office door. "Ms. Min, there's a package for you." Inside the manila envelope was a job offer from Phoenix Media, one of Stellar Entertainment's main competitors. The position was Senior Creative Director, with a salary significantly higher than her current role and complete creative autonomy over campaign development. A handwritten note was attached. "Your talent deserves recognition, untainted by personal complications. This opportunity came through professional channels and your reputation in the industry. You've earned this. A friend who believes in your abilities." Ji-woo stared at the offer, her emotions churning. The position was everything she dreamed about, and if the note was truthful, it had nothing to do with Taemin's influence. But could she trust that? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The Phoenix Media offer is legitimate and came through industry contacts impressed by your SJ Group presentation. I had no involvement in securing this opportunity. I want you to succeed on your own terms." That evening, Ji-woo walked through Hongdae's bustling streets, past the coffee shops and small restaurants where she'd spent her struggling years. Success felt hollow when it came with so much emotional confusion. She found herself at the small park where she used to sit, when her studio apartment felt too cramped for both her body and her dreams. The bench overlooked a playground where children played while their parents watched protectively. "I thought I might find you here." Ji-woo turned to see her grandmother approaching slowly, her cane tapping against the concrete path. At 78, Grandma Min still possessed the sharp intelligence that had helped her survive poverty, war, and decades of social change. "How did you know where I was?" Ji-woo asked, making room on the bench. "You always came here when you needed to think," her grandmother replied, settling beside her with a soft grunt. "You've been doing that since you were little." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint Seoul's skyline in shades of gold and pink. "Want to tell me what's troubling you?" Grandma Min asked gently. Ji-woo found herself explaining everything: the job, the deception, the feelings of betrayal and confusion. Her grandmother listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "So this young man lied about his identity," Grandma Min summarized when Ji-woo finished. "Yes." "And he helped your career advancement?" "Yes." "And you fell in love with him?" Ji-woo hesitated. "I thought I did. But how can you love someone when you don't know who they really are?" "That's an interesting question," her grandmother mused. "Tell me about the person you fell in love with. Not his name or job title, but who he was when you were together." Ji-woo closed her eyes, remembering those lunch conversations that had brightened her difficult early weeks at Stellar Entertainment. "He was kind, genuinely interested in my ideas when everyone else dismissed them. He made me laugh, and he listened like my thoughts actually mattered. He was humble about his own intelligence, and he never made me feel inferior for my background." Those qualities sound real enough. But they were built on lies. Were they? Grandma Min asked. Or were they built on his desire to be seen for who he really is? Just like you wanted to be seen for who you really are. Ji-woo opened her eyes. "What do you mean?" "You've spent your whole life fighting to be valued for your mind and heart, rather than judged by your bank account. Maybe he was fighting the same battle from the opposite direction." "That's different. I never lied about who I was." "Didn't you? How many times did you downplay your intelligence so others wouldn't feel threatened? How often did you hide your ambitions because people expected less from someone with your background?" Ji-woo felt uncomfortable recognition. She had, in fact, learned to modulate her brilliance depending on her audience. "We all wear masks," her grandmother continued, gently. "The question is whether we wear them to deceive others or to protect ourselves, and whether we're willing to remove them for the people who matter." That night, Ji-woo made her decision about the Phoenix Media offer. She would accept the position, but first, she needed closure with Tae-min. She texted him. "Can we meet? I have something to say." His response came immediately. "Anytime, anywhere." They met at a small coffee shop in Insadong, far from both their offices and the places where they'd shared their deceptive lunches. Tae-min arrived first, looking haggard in a way that expensive clothes couldn't hide. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, as Ji-woo sat across from him. "I'm taking the Phoenix Media job," she said without preamble. He nodded. "You should. It's a better opportunity than anything I could offer without compromising your independence. I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Anything." "During all those lunches, all those conversations, were your responses genuine? When you laughed at my jokes, when you seemed interested in my ideas, when you shared your own thoughts, was any of that real?" Tae-min leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Every moment was real. Every laugh, every question, every opinion I shared. That was me, not the chairman persona I wear for everyone else. You met the most authentic version of myself that I've shown anyone in years. Then why couldn't you trust me with the truth?" "Because I was a coward," he said simply. "I was afraid that if you knew who I really was, you'd see me the way everyone else does. As a wallet, a connection, an opportunity. I was terrified of losing the one person who looked at me and saw just me." Ji-woo studied his face, searching for traces of deception, but finding only raw honesty. "You were protecting yourself." "Yes. But in doing so, I hurt you and I'm sorry. I should have trusted you with the truth." "You should have." Ji-woo paused, choosing her words carefully. "But I understand why you didn't." They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings settling between them like dust after an explosion. "Can I ask you something?" Tae-min said quietly. "Of course. If we had met differently, if I had introduced myself honestly from the beginning, would you have given me a chance?" Ji-woo considered the question seriously. I don't know, she admitted. I might have been too intimidated, too worried about the power imbalance and what people would think. So maybe we both needed the lie to find the truth. Maybe. Ji-woo looked down at her hands. But where does that leave us now? I don't know, Taemin said. I know I don't want to lose you completely. I know that the past months with you have been the happiest I've been in years. And I know that I love you, not as my employee, not as someone I can help or influence, but as the brilliant, passionate, genuine person you are. The words hung in the air between them. Ji-woo felt her heart race, but her mind remained cautious. Love built on deception isn't really love, she said softly. Then let me prove that what we had was real, Taemin said desperately. Give me a chance to show you who I really am. No masks, no pretense. How? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Ji-woo stood to leave, then paused. Taemin? Yes? The person I fell in love with during those lunches. He was real. He was the most real I've ever been. She nodded once and walked away, leaving Taemin alone with his regrets and his determination to somehow make things right. 6 months later, Phoenix Media's offices in Gangnam buzzed with creative energy as Ji-woo reviewed campaign proposals from her team. As senior creative director, she had transformed the company's approach to talent management, implementing the authentic engagement strategies she dreamed about during her stellar entertainment days. Her success had been meteoric and undeniably earned. The campaigns she'd developed had won industry awards, attracted top-tier clients, and established Phoenix Media as a serious competitor to the established agencies. But late at night, when the office was empty and Seoul's lights twinkled beyond her window, Ji-woo sometimes found herself thinking about lunch conversations with a man who had made her laugh and challenged her thinking and seen her potential when no one else did. She had heard through industry gossip that Taemin had implemented significant changes at Stellar Entertainment, blind review processes for promotions, mentorship programs for employees from disadvantaged backgrounds, and increased investment in innovative marketing approaches. The company's reputation had improved dramatically, with several high-profile talents switching from other agencies specifically because of Stellar's new commitment to authentic artist development. Ji-woo wondered if these changes were coincidence, or if their brief relationship had somehow influenced his business philosophy. Her wondering ended on a Tuesday morning when her assistant knocked on her office door. "Ms. Min, there's someone here to see you. He says it's personal, but he won't give his name." Ji-woo looked up from her computer, puzzled. Did he say what it was about? Something about lunch? Ji-woo's heart skipped. She knew, without being told, who was waiting in her reception area. Taemin sat in the waiting area wearing jeans and a simple sweater, looking more like the Min Ho she remembered than the polished chairman she'd discovered him to be. When he saw her, he stood nervously. "Hi," he said. "Hi." They looked at each other across the reception area, months of separation, and unresolved feelings crackling between them. "Can we talk?" he asked. Ji-woo glanced around the busy office, aware that her staff was watching with curiosity. "There's a cafe across the street." The cafe was small and unpretentious, filled with office workers grabbing quick lunches. They found a corner table, and for a moment, the familiarity of sitting across from each other over simple food transported them back to their Stellar Entertainment days. "You look good," Taemin said. "Success suits you." "Thank you. I hear Stellar Entertainment is doing well too." "We are. I've implemented some changes you might find interesting." Ji-woo listened as he described the new policies and programs, recognizing some of her own ideas in his reforms. "You remembered our conversations," she said when he finished. "I remembered everything, every idea you shared, every frustration you expressed about industry practices, every suggestion you made for improvement. I've been trying to build the kind of company you described during those lunches." "Why?" Taemin met her eyes directly. "Because you were right, about authentic engagement, about valuing talent over connections, about treating people with dignity regardless of their background, and because building the company you envisioned was the only way I could think of to honor what we shared. Ji-woo felt something shift in her chest, a loosening of the protective walls she'd built around her heart. There's something else, Tae-min continued. I've been volunteering. Volunteering? At a community center in Mapo district, teaching business skills to people from low-income backgrounds who want to start their own companies. I figured, if I was going to understand what real struggle looks like, I should start by listening to people who've lived it. Ji-woo stared at him. You've been teaching business classes in Mapo. Every Saturday for the past 4 months. It's been educational and humbling. What have you learned? Tae-min smiled ruefully. That I knew a lot about having money and very little about not having it. That privilege is invisible until you look for it. That most people are fighting battles I never imagined. He paused, then continued quietly. And that the woman I fell in love with is even more remarkable than I realized, because she overcame obstacles I'm only beginning to understand. Ji-woo felt tears pricking her eyes. Tae-min. I'm not telling you this to win you back, he said quickly. I'm telling you because you changed me, and I wanted you to know. The person you met during those lunches was real, but he was also incomplete. I'm trying to become someone worthy of the faith you showed in him. They sat in silence, the noise of the cafe fading around them. I missed you, Ji-woo said quietly. I missed you too. I missed our conversations, the way you listened to my ideas like they mattered, the way you made me feel seen. You were seen. You are seen. Your brilliance is undeniable. Ji-woo looked at this man who had deceived her and hurt her, and somehow in the process had also loved her more authentically than anyone else ever had. If we tried again, she said carefully, it would have to be different. Tae-min's heart leaped. Different how? Complete honesty, no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient. No protecting me from difficulties or smoothing my path without my knowledge. I need to succeed or fail on my own merits. I understand. And we take it slowly. I need to learn who you really are, all of you, not just the parts you think I want to see, whatever you need. Ji-woo took a deep breath. Then yes, we can try again. The smile that spread across Tae-min's face was like sunrise after a long winter. Really? Really? But I have conditions. Name them. First lunch is on me. And we're going Dutch on everything until I'm comfortable with the financial imbalance between us. Agreed. And I want to meet your family. Your real family. Not some sanitized version designed to impress me. Tae-min's smile faltered slightly. My grandfather he's not an easy man. I didn't expect him to be. But if we're going to build something real, I need to understand all the forces that shaped you. Fair enough. And I want you to meet my grandmother properly. She's been asking about the young man who broke my heart. She knows about me. Grandmothers know everything. She also said something that I've been thinking about. What was that? That sometimes we have to lose ourselves to find ourselves. Maybe you needed to pretend to be someone else to discover who you really were. Tae-min reached across the table and gently took her hand. And maybe you needed to walk away to realize your own strength. Maybe we did. 1 year later. The Stellar Entertainment annual gala looked different this year. Instead of the traditional hotel ballroom, the event was held at the Seoul Arts Center, with proceeds benefiting arts education programs in underserved communities. The guest list included not just industry executives, but also the artists, writers, and creators whose work made the entertainment possible. Ji-woo, now creative director at Phoenix Media, and widely recognized as one of Korea's most innovative marketing strategists, stood near the silent auction display reviewing bids on artist-donated pieces. She wore a midnight blue dress that complemented her confident bearing, but she moved through the crowd with the same genuine warmth that had first attracted Tae-min. Across the room, Tae-min finished his opening remarks about the importance of supporting emerging talent regardless of economic background. His speech was different from the corporate platitudes that usually marked such events. It was personal, passionate, and reflected the changes that had transformed both him and his company. When their eyes met across the crowded room, the look they shared held understanding, affection, and the comfortable intimacy of two people who had learned to see each other clearly. "Your boyfriend's speech was impressive," said Min So-ra, Ji-woo's colleague from Phoenix Media. "Very different from the usual corporate rhetoric." "He's learned a lot about authentic communication," Ji-woo replied with a small smile. "Are you happy?" So-ra asked directly, in the way that only close friends can. Ji-woo considered the question as she watched Taemin navigate conversations with board members, artists, and community leaders with equal attention and respect. "I'm happy," she said finally. "It's complicated and sometimes challenging, but it's real, and that makes it worth the effort." Later that evening, after the last guests had departed and the event staff had begun cleaning up, Taemin and Ji-woo walked through the Seoul Arts Center's sculpture garden. The night air was crisp with the promise of autumn, and the city lights created a backdrop of urban beauty. "Successful event," Ji-woo observed. "Thanks to your marketing strategy," Taemin replied. "The silent auction raised twice what we projected. It helped that you were willing to make it about more than just industry networking." They paused beside a bronze sculpture of two figures reaching toward each other across a divide. "Ji-woo," Taemin said quietly. "There's something I want to ask you." She turned to face him, noting the nervous energy in his posture. "What is it?" Taemin reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Ji-woo's breath caught as he dropped to one knee on the garden path. "Min Ji-woo," he said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "You saw me before I knew how to see myself. You challenged me to become better than I thought possible. You showed me that love isn't about what we can do for each other, but about who we become when we're together." He opened the box to reveal an elegant but understated ring, beautiful without being ostentatious. "I'm not asking you to marry the chairman of Stellar Entertainment," he continued. "I'm asking you to marry Lee Tae-min, the man who counts his lunch money and volunteers on weekends and loves you for exactly who you are. Will you marry me?" Ji-woo looked down at him. This man who had traveled such a long journey from deception to authenticity, who had learned to love her not despite her humble background, but because of the strength it had given her. "Yes," she said simply. As Taemin slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Ji-woo thought about the path that had brought them to this moment. It hadn't been simple or straightforward. It had required them both to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and each other, but it had also taught them that real love isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about two people choosing to see each other clearly and love what they find. The sculpture beside them seemed to capture something essential about their story. Two figures reaching across the space between them, not to eliminate the distance, but to bridge it with understanding and choice. In the distance, Seoul's lights twinkled like promises against the dark sky, and Ji-woo knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with honesty, respect, and the deep love that grows only when people have the courage to be truly seen. Epilogue, 2 years later. The small community center in Mapo district buzzed with excited chatter as Ji-woo finished her presentation on digital marketing for small businesses. The audience, a mix of aspiring entrepreneurs, single mothers, and young people from low-income families, peppered her with enthusiastic questions. "How do you measure engagement authentically?" asked a young woman who reminded Ji-woo of herself at that age. "By remembering that behind every click, every like, every share is a real person with real needs," Ji-woo replied. "When you focus on serving those needs rather than manipulating them, engagement becomes meaningful." After the session, she packed up her materials while participants lingered to network and share ideas. Through the window, she could see Tae-min setting up chairs for his business planning workshop in the next room. Their Saturday volunteer work had become the foundation of something larger, a non-profit organization dedicated to providing business, education and startup resources for underserved communities. What had begun as Tae Min's attempt to understand privilege had evolved into a passionate shared mission. "Ready to go home?" Tae Min asked as Ji-woo joined him in the hallway. "Almost. I promised Mrs. Kim I'd look at her daughter's social media strategy for the bakery." Tae Min smiled, unsurprised. Ji-woo's inability to resist helping aspiring entrepreneurs was one of the many things he loved about her. Their drive home took them through neighborhoods that told Seoul's story, from the gleaming towers of Gangnam to the narrow streets of older districts where tradition and modernity coexisted in comfortable tension. They lived now in a modest apartment that reflected their shared values, comfortable but not ostentatious, filled with books and art rather than status symbols. "How was your session?" Ji-woo asked as they walked up the stairs to their third-floor home. "Good. Mr. Park thinks he's ready to launch his delivery service next month, and the university student with the tutoring app idea made some real progress on her business model. The one who reminds you of yourself at that age? Except she's much smarter and hasn't had everything handed to her." Ji-woo squeezed his hand. Even after years together, Tae Min sometimes slipped into self-criticism about his privileged background. She had learned to remind him gently that acknowledging privilege was different from wallowing in guilt about it. Inside their apartment, they settled into their evening routine, Ji-woo grading business plans from their workshop participants, while Tae Min prepared dinner. The domestic normalcy still felt precious to both of them, a reminder that the most profound love often expressed itself in ordinary moments. "Oh," Ji-woo said, looking up from a particularly promising restaurant concept. "I forgot to tell you, Phoenix Media wants to expand the mentorship program we developed. They're asking if we'd be willing to consult on implementing it company-wide. That's wonderful. You should do it. We should do it. This was as much your idea as mine." Tae Min paused in his chopping of vegetables. "Are you sure? It might be awkward, given my position at Stella." "Tae Min." Ji-woo set down her pen and looked at him seriously. "We've been married for 6 months. When are you going to stop worrying that people will think I'm succeeding because of you rather than with you?" He considered this. She was right, as usual. Their relationship had evolved to the point where they were genuine partners, each bringing different strengths to their shared goals. The days when he felt the need to hide his support, or she felt the need to prove her independence, were behind them. "You're right," he said. "Let's do it together." That night, as they sat on their small balcony sharing a bottle of wine and watching Seoul's endless lights, Ji-woo reflected on the journey that had brought them to this peaceful moment. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd been honest from the beginning?" she asked. Tae Min considered the question. "Sometimes, but I think we needed to go through what we went through. I needed to learn who I was without the money and status. You needed to prove to yourself that you could succeed on your own terms. Maybe we both needed to learn that love isn't about circumstances matching up perfectly. It's about people choosing to grow in the same direction." "Very wise, Mrs. Lee." Ji-woo smiled at the name she was still getting used to. They'd had a simple wedding ceremony attended by close family and friends, followed by a reception at the community center where they volunteered. Instead of an expensive honeymoon, they'd used their wedding funds to establish scholarships for business students from low-income families. "I love you," she said, the words carrying the weight of everything they'd overcome and everything they'd built together. "I love you too," Tae Min replied, reaching for her hand. "All of you. Even the parts that challenge me and push me to be better." "Especially those parts," Ji-woo corrected with a laugh. As Seoul settled into night around them, they sat in comfortable silence, two people who had learned that the most beautiful love stories aren't about perfect circumstances, but about imperfect people choosing to see each other clearly and love what they find. In the distance, the city continued its restless energy, millions of people pursuing their own dreams of success, love, and belonging. But on their small balcony, wrapped in the quiet contentment of understanding and choice, Ji-woo and Tae Min had found something rarer than wealth or status. They had found home in each other. The story that had begun with deception had transformed into something built on absolute truth. Not just the truth of facts and circumstances, but the deeper truth of two hearts that had learned to beat in harmony while maintaining their own distinct rhythms. And in a city where appearances often mattered more than authenticity, where wealth could buy attention but not affection, they had discovered that the richest love grows from the simplest foundation. Two people who see each other clearly and choose each other daily, not despite their differences, but because of how those differences make them stronger together.